This is a podcast about the power of lived experiences, about how stories can shape more human-centered systems, spaces, and services.
Each episode, we sit down with people who are challenging the status quo, leading with empathy, and helping others through their work and their stories.
We're Farah and Megan, and this is Collected by Co.
Welcome back to Collected by Co. Today we're here with Melissa Gallagher, who is the founder and CEO of Alma Care, which is a company that is revolutionizing what postpartum care experiences look like for Canadians. So we're very excited to have you today, Melissa. We are both moms. We've both gone through the postpartum experience, and I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of moms and parents that you don't really realize what that fourth trimester looks like until you've gone through it. You don't realize how intense it is before you embark on it. And then when you're in it, you're kind of like just in the thick of it. And when you reflect on it after, you're like, wow, that was intense. But you were in it and you realize that there were a lot of gaps that were existing that exist. So welcome, and we're excited to have you talk about all things postpartum and what you're doing.
Thank you. Excited to chat.
Yeah. So you had your first daughter, and it was only a few weeks into being postpartum that you were like, whoa, things need to change. Can you kind of walk us through what that looked like?
Well, it's so funny. I mean, you even say, as parents, you don't know what to expect in the fourth trimester. I didn't even know there was a fourth trimester.
Yeah.
You know, going into coming through pregnancy. So, once I was there, baby had arrived. It wasn't too long. It was just a few weeks where things started to creep up, and I, started to reflect, thinking, wait a second, is this it? Is this it? Is this all there really is to support? So 3 weeks in, for those who haven't gone through it yet, you haven't seen your doctor. You've been discharged from the hospital likely within 24 hours. And you are home in the throes of taking care of this brand new baby. You're, navigating a new relationship dynamic with your partner. You're physically going through so much change. And it's an incredibly intense period. And for me, it wasn't necessarily this lightning bolt moment, but it was a slow creep of that question, like, is this really it? So at 3 weeks I had experienced it firsthand. I'd gone through a lot of the hormonal changes, the physical changes, and adapting to this new chapter, and having spoken to other moms who were going through it or had just gone through it, and it became apparent that this wasn't just a personal problem, that this was something system-wide that everyone really feels. So that, to me, once you see that it's not just you and that it really is everyone, you can't unsee it. And it became a problem that I really wanted to solve. So that was kind of it. That was the moment when I decided, or that was the timeline that I decided that this was something that I needed to solve, not just for me, but for others.
Yeah. And I think, Melissa, you raise so much of the experience on not seeing your doctor, going through all these changes. And Megan was talking about the fourth trimester. But I think, just to clarify for our listeners, what you're talking about and the work you're doing is really around postpartum support for women, right? And, I think that a lot of us felt like you go home with this baby and now everything revolves around the baby, right? And there's all these resources to support what you're supposed to do, or, the schedule you're supposed to follow, and what the fourth trimester is should look like for your infant.
Yeah.
But nobody's paying attention to what that period is supposed to look like or should optimally look like for you. And I think even when I went through it, people would joke about it, oh, once you have this baby, no one's going to care about you anymore. Everyone's going to care about your baby. It's yeah, that's true. But until you're living it, you don't really realize what that means.
Yeah. Well, they joke about what it will be like for everybody paying attention to the baby, but there's also a lot of jokes around, oh, you're not going to know who you are anymore. And like, this is just your new life. But it doesn't have to be like that, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that, your postpartum journey was, a little while back, and things have changed and there's more information. And I think that social media can play a great role in educating people on the fourth trimester and what to expect. But that still exists, this like joking around it, and it's funny. And I think that there's, some people take a little bit of, it makes them feel good to know that other people are going through it, and to make it a light topic. But 1 in 4 women experience postpartum depression, and that's not light.
No.
And the feelings that you experience when you're going through postpartum depression, the thoughts that you have, the doubt that you experience, and the impact that it can have on not just your fourth trimester, but your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with the baby, has long-lasting effects. And, I think that that's something that we're trying to destigmatize. People don't want to be labeled.
Yeah.
And postpartum isn't a label. It's a period that everyone goes through. And I think there just needs to be far more education around what to expect, and proactive support. The joking after the fact. If you go on social media and you see moms who are, joking about how they haven't showered in days or haven't slept, and it's like, but how are we supporting one another? And if it's known that this is what the period looks like, what are the support structures that we're putting in place proactively to help moms come out of this better than before, to feel connected to herself, to be ready to take on this new chapter, and to build a bond with her baby and her partner who, they're taking on this new chapter together. So I think we've come some distance over the past few years, but we still have so much work to do to really prepare parents for this new chapter, because it's very real. There is no escaping the fourth trimester. It is very real, and the birth is what we kind of think of as the finish line.
Yes,
but that's just the start.
Yeah, exactly. So, what does it look like for moms or parents that are going through Alma Care? How do you support people in that? Yeah,
so we, technically, our care starts once baby arrives. Our hands-on support starts when baby arrives. But, we start working with families the moment they get pregnant. That positive pregnancy test. We start to hear from families who are reaching out to learn more about our services. And what we do is we plan with them. We help them identify, what are your goals, first and foremost, postpartum? What are your resources that you have access to? What does your family dynamic look like? What does support look like? There's many new Canadians who don't have any family here. So even a simple visit once a week from someone outside of your home can be very helpful, and they might not have access to that. So really understanding what their goals are, what their dynamics are, and helping to build a plan that at the very least helps them understand what to expect once baby arrives and from their recovery. So, we give them a timeline. This is what the first week might look like. This is what the second week, the third week, the fourth week, and beyond for mom, for the recovering parent, physically, mentally, emotionally. So we start there. And then the care that we provide, it's hands-on in-home care. Someone will come to your home and provide direct support for your physical, mental recovery. That means, helping to assess, how is your recovery going? Is it progressing in the right direction? Are there things that need to be escalated? Everyone's birth is different, and how their body reacts can be very different. And if we can catch things early on, then we can reduce the number of visits to urgent care. We can, alleviate some of the stress and doubt that moms feel after giving birth. So, that guidance is a big part of it, but then also the hands-on support. Your body has just gone through what is likely its greatest trauma it ever will. And you need to allow it to recover. If this was a knee surgery or a hip surgery, or, you would be in hospital recovering.
Yeah.
but you're home and you're taking on this new,
You're up and down.
You're up and down. Exactly. And you need not to be. You really need to allow. So that's what we do. We go in, it's hands-on care for mom and for baby. We really, really encourage her to allow all of her energy on rest and recovery and bonding with baby. And then guide her through, if your goal is to exclusively breastfeed, what does that look like in reality? And what are the resources that need to be in place in order for you to achieve that goal? And there's troubleshooting that needs to happen in the moment, to get the right latch. There's, baby's development is so important. As new moms, how do you know if you're breastfeeding baby, if they've gotten enough? How do you know, when they're hungry? These are cues that experts can help guide you through. And, once you get it, and it sets you off on the right trajectory.
Yeah.
So that's, it's in practice, it's very hands-on. It is helping parents, navigate in the moment, the fourth trimester and beyond, but then also really setting them up to take on the next chapter together as new parents. So, things as simple as how do I trim baby's fingernails or, what diaper cream should I use? When should I use diaper cream? Bathing baby. Those are all things that are so scary as new parents. That will guide you through. And the goal is that you now have the skills to take this on confidently and in partnership with the person that you're raising the child with.
Yeah, the support is so key. Even in having my first baby versus my second, like our first was, we had our first baby and then 12 days later we were in lockdown in the pandemic.
Ooh.
And there was support from afar and I had some support in the early days, but I didn't even really know what support I needed yet. And then having our second 3 years later, we're out of the pandemic pretty much. And, I could have my mom stay over for a couple of weeks and help and support. Like the recovery was so much different, but I also went into it knowing the supports that I needed. But as a new parent or a new mom, you don't even know what you need. So being able to access a resource like Alma is so great for parents to be like, okay, I don't know what I need, but you lay it all out for them.
Yeah, exactly. We talk to moms who say, I would like to exclusively breastfeed. And even, 3 months in advance, they're doubting themselves on being able to do that, And I think that there's a lot of narrative around, being flexible when it comes to what your goals are and whether it's your birth plan or your feeding plan or your sleep plan. Be flexible and know that babies are different. And every situation is different. But just by letting them know that you don't have to, it doesn't need to be painful. It doesn't need to be, you can increase supply. There's things that you can do, very simple things that can help you achieve that goal. Just saying that to them and letting them know you can have a lactation consultant come to your home. We can arrange that on day 2 once you're home and milk supply is in, just giving them that visibility into what tools do we have in our toolbox to be able to achieve our goals so that we're not doubting ourselves and so that we're not suffering through some of these, very normal but avoidable parts of, raising a child and experiencing postpartum recovery.
Did you feel, Melissa, that there was any work that needed to be done, or maybe that you faced challenges around, I guess, convincing people that they needed to pay attention to what the mother needed versus what the baby needed? Was there ever this, I guess, this pervasive mindset around well, actually, we just need to know what to do for baby?
We still see it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much work for us to do culturally to adopt the idea, to readopt the idea that the mom, the birthing parent, needs to be taken care of. It is a very short window of recovery. It really is. In the grand scheme of things, 4 to 6 weeks of intensive recovery support for mom can lead to, lifelong impact for the positive, and then the reverse, if you don't, if you try to bounce back or if you, force things, don't proactively support your mental health. Those are things that'll have, lasting effects. So, I think that there's still so much work to do. We see a lot of parents who come, looking for just someone to take care of the baby. And of course, that is a huge part of it. But you have to, constantly remind them that, your nutrition is important. Right. Your sleep is important. The laundry, not important. We got that. We'll take care of that.
Nice.
Yeah. Protect this window of recovery.
Yeah.
Intensely, like really, really do. Because that time's gone. You never have it back. So there, we still have so much work to do. Absolutely. And that's part of it is really educating people on the why, the greater why of taking care of the birthing parent after.
Yeah.
So, I think things like mental health, it's becoming more of a common topic. People are more willing to talk about it. So, implementing earlier on screening, making sure that it doesn't feel like a label that you can't wear. It's something that is so common. I think destigmatizing those things will help us get there, but we still have so much work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think, because I think so much of what you're doing almost requires like, yes, there's the mindset work, right? There's like culturally, we have a long way to go still in, accepting and normalizing this, I guess, at the system level too, right? It feels like there's so many gaps in care there. And I guess, have you seen through your work and through this education, like, are we making any progress from a systems level perspective on some of this?
So, I think from a systems level, there are easy things that we can implement. And that's, like I said, this early screening of mental health. 40% of postpartum depression cases start before postpartum.
Oh,
wow.
So in pregnancy.
Hmm.
So imagine if we just screened for that, proactively set up the support for that family going through postpartum, what an impact that would have. So I think early screening is a very simple thing. We don't see it yet, but would love to.
Wow,
and
that's stat 40%.
Yeah,
Like that's
wild.
wild.
Yeah, it's wild. And then on the reverse too, when you put strong postpartum support in, you can reduce postpartum depression by 60%.
Wow.
So there are clear signals that by doing early screening and by providing strong proactive support, we could really impact, the number of families who are experiencing postpartum depression. So I think that the early screening is one side of it. The other thing that we are seeing progress in is employers offering this as a benefit to their employees. So not just focusing on reactive care, but getting more into proactive care.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some wonderful employers who are putting in, significant dollars to supporting the postpartum journey. Care at Fertility is one out of the U.S. So many U.S. companies who have offices here in Canada offer their employees Care at Fertility benefit. And that benefit extends through the entire family planning journey and then into postpartum, where it gives them 6 weeks of quite intensive care.
That's nice.
Hands-on inside the home from certified doulas. So I love to see that.
Yeah.
That grants accessibility. That might even set off a light bulb for someone to think about the 4th trimester at the very start, rather than being reactive. So I think we certainly are making progress in some aspects. And there are really simple things that we can do, like the screening early on, to do even better really quickly.
Yeah. I'm wondering, this is just a question or a thought that I have, but there's so many women who have pelvic floor issues after birth. And I don't know if there's so many women because it's a topic that people talk about more often now, but if moms were taken better care of within that 6-week period after birth, or they put themselves first in their recovery, do you think that there would be less pelvic floor issues after the 4th trimester? Yeah,
for sure. I think that's one of those lasting impacts.
Right.
Yeah.
Where if you don't put the resources in place at the right time. And what I learned too late is that pelvic floor therapy should start in pregnancy.
Right. I also learned that too late.
Right.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So now you're doing the catch-up work after. So
jumping ropes,
and it's
still
hard.
not my favorite.
I know.
Exactly.
No jumping.
I think without a doubt, if you started that during pregnancy, you would know the right mechanisms for pushing during labor, which have an immediate impact on your pelvic floor. And then, if you stay off your feet, I think most women would, after birth, would say that that's something you absolutely feel. You stay on your feet for too long, you can feel your pelvic floor.
It just is like that pressure.
Absolutely.
And weight.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, if you were focusing on your recovery, you would stay in bed for the first week, stay off your feet, have someone bring baby to you, have someone bring your meals to you, and alleviate that pressure on your pelvic floor, because it needs that time to recover. And we just simply don't give it to it. So without a doubt. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what's interesting is that there are a lot of cultures around the world that do prioritize postpartum care.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can speak to that more, but so the first question is, do you know about different cultures and their postpartum care experiences? And then the second layer to that is, why do you think there's this disconnect in North America? Like, why is North America so far behind in how we treat moms after they have babies?
So definitely know of other cultures who do it. And quite frankly, it's almost all cultures outside of North America. Alma Care was inspired by many of the Asian traditions. So the traditional Chinese medicine approach to recovery, protecting that first 30 to 40 days after birth, comes from what's formerly known as sitting the month. And during that time in these cultures, and not just Asian cultures, there's many, you protect that window, and there's almost a very clear playbook of staying indoors, allowing your body to use all of its energy just to heal and recover, to produce milk for baby, and to bond with baby. That's the core focus of that protected window of 30 to 40 days. And in that window, things like nutrition, what you're putting in your body matters, not just fueling your body. Yes, you need caloric intake for sure because of the recovery and producing milk, but what you put into your body really matters, not just how much. And warm, easy to digest foods also help your body focus its energy on recovery versus digestion. There's specific things that in the traditional Chinese medicine approach that they believe if you consume, for example, spicy foods, your baby could have eczema. There's a lot of wisdom that comes to the postpartum recovery. And we've drawn inspiration from that on the way that we approach care with Alma Care. And that really is, that's why we bring it all in home, is so that you don't have to leave the home. The goal is for you to just stay in, rest. You've got the care there to take care of you, to guide your recovery, to take care of baby, to take care of the laundry, to prepare meals for you, to guide you on the nutrition that you should have. That's all in home. If you want a massage, we'll bring it in home. Acupuncture. I did with my second, actually, I did this. I sat the month. So I did a month of confinement.
Wow.
And it was...
And you just stayed inside your home?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what did that look like?
So what it looked like was, and I will say I broke it twice.
Okay.
But what it looked like was truly staying at home, staying on one floor of the house. So setting up your bedroom or wherever is most accessible as a place where you're going to stay. As much as humanly possible, you stay on one floor. And that's for the first week or two, absolutely. So reduce your going up and down stairs, which, in Toronto, our houses are all stairs. So that's really important. Make sure you have snacks, hydration. I had, especially through Alma Care, the great fortune of having daytime and overnight care. So someone coming for a few hours throughout the day. During the daytime, a lot of the focus was on preparing meals. So brewing a broth that has, it's a bone broth with Chinese herbs that is really, really nourishing, supports immunity and recovery functions, energy, all these great things. I still drink it to this day, every day. It's amazing. And, and then soups and foods, they would really, focus on that as well as tidying around the house, supporting with baby, of course, and just making sure that I was taken care of. Then overnight, of course, being the primary caregiver for baby so that we could get really long stretches of sleep. So even while I'm breastfeeding, they're bringing baby to me, feeding baby, taking baby back to the bassinet, soothing back to sleep. So just keeping a very restful household throughout the night. And as the weeks go on, your recovery looks a little different. So the first week, really, really limit your movement. Limit any visitors from outside. So you're trying not to, you're trying to protect both yourself and your baby, your immunity, and build immunity for your baby. And then also you're trying to limit yourself to cold exposure. So anything that, again, stops your body from focusing on recovery. So 4 weeks of that, throughout their massages to help with, recovery, physical recovery, and acupuncture, and all of those things inside the home. Your family, once you protect that window too, they kind of get it. I'm so grateful that we've moved away from having, 40 people show up at the hospital with gifts when you're, just given birth. I'm so glad we're past that. And we're protecting that window. And I took it a step further to say, I'm doing a month of confinement. So please, respect that.
So nobody visited you?
We did have very, very limited visitation, protected windows, and kind of guardrails around what that looked like. Mm-hmm. And everyone respected it. They really understood it. Yeah. So it was fantastic. When I broke it, the 2 times I broke it, I will say, because to be realistic, I have a toddler who that was actually the hardest part for me, because I had all these resources in place. I had a plan in place. I was being taken care of so well. My recovery was going so smoothly. The hardest part for me the second time around was the transition from 1 to 2 children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had this toddler who at the time was not quite 3 years old, and she was my world. Mm-hmm. And that relationship started to change in a very beautiful way. But by doing the confinement, I found it really difficult. Things where I used to walk her to school, little things that we would do together were really difficult. So,
and she probably didn't fully
and she couldn't understand it. Exactly. Yeah. So it was really hard. That was the hardest part for me. Mm-hmm. So I broke it twice to take her to school. I bundled up, really looked ridiculous, but bundled myself up so I wouldn't get cold, and drove instead of walked, and those types of things to make sure that we still had that time. But it was great. I would do it again. I actually say now, if I could do that every year, just to have a reset, I would. Mm-hmm. I can't, especially now with 2 children. But what an investment in my recovery.
For sure.
And this might be like a devil's advocate type question, but when you have overnight support with the baby, or, you have support who is helping settle the baby or put them back to bed, does that impact the bond that you initially have with the baby?
Yeah, it's a question that so many parents, especially if you've never done it before, you worry about that. Mm-hmm. I worried about it too, because I didn't have it with my first. And the answer is no.
Okay.
There's you still have protected bonding time too.
Right.
So it's not just about outsourcing taking care of the baby. It's more about allowing yourself to rest so that, I remember waking up in the morning when I didn't have a night nurse to the first cry. And you've been up all night and you haven't slept. And that is not a cry, the 7 a.m. cry when you know that this is the start of my day. Mm-hmm. That's not a cry that you're excited to go respond to.
Right.
However, when you have the care and you've gotten rest, when you hear your baby in the morning, you can't wait to go snuggle that baby, and bond with them. And then you have protected windows of bonding throughout the day, the skin to skin, you're in bed snuggling, it's very purposeful. Mm-hmm. And then of course there's other ways that you can make sure that baby feels connected to you if they're being, snuggled by a caregiver. Mm-hmm. You can have a shirt that smells like you. It's a shirt that you've been wearing all day. Give it to the caregiver to, put on them so that it still smells like baby. I think the most important thing, again, it's a protected window and one you don't get back. Yeah. Protect your mental health.
Yeah.
Sleep is critical.
And
even with young ones, this, it's still probably very real.
Oh yeah. But I just remember, I'm sure you do too, with the first baby, you're tired, but then the second baby, you're exhausted. And I didn't have a night nurse. And for the first 2 weeks, my husband and I were literally up every 15 minutes. Our daughter, she had really bad gas, and oh my gosh, it was just you're a shell of yourself. Yeah. And then you're grumpy. You're not the best person during the day. So I understand how that must be. Well, I mean, your mental health takes a hit as well, but like having that support in the evening so that you wake up and you're feeling refreshed and happy and excited instead of being like, oh my God, I've been up with you all night.
Exactly. It's a world of difference. I often liken it to like a Disney princess waking up in the morning and all of a sudden, the birds are chirping and everything's a little bit brighter and there's sparkles everywhere after you've had a good night's sleep. And it's just so important. Like that is going to deliver really intentional bonding time with your baby versus, the resentment of I have been up all night. Why can't you just sleep? Why can't you just,
just tired, you just want to cry.
Yeah. You must have now supported like hundreds of women, right, through this process and through this period of time. So curious about what some of the most I guess maybe surprising outcomes or things that you've heard from some of the women who have, experienced Alma Care and maybe, things that you didn't expect that have taken you.
It's a great question. The first thing that was most surprising to me on this journey, there's a few things that have been surprising in building this business, but the first thing in terms of impact was the partner. So the focus is what we do is intensely focused on mom's recovery and baby care. To have the partner come to us and say, with tears in their eyes, I can't believe how much I got out of this experience and how leveled up I feel as a parent now.
That's nice.
I'm so grateful. So nice. And it wasn't, of course, we are trying to impact the entire unit, but it wasn't something that I was expecting to have such a direct impact.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing, that I experienced, and as someone who works in postpartum and, some of the narratives that exist, it's as someone who was building a business too, the thought of taking a maternity leave was very controversial. There's this idea like you have to take a maternity leave, or maybe this is my own negative talk, or you're a bad mom, know? And that was the feeling that I had. But I didn't take maternity leave. I was building a business and I had the support structure in place. And I think what's surprising to other people, it wasn't surprising to me because this is why we built Alma Care. But I think what was surprising to other people or somewhat controversial is as someone who works in postpartum, I didn't take maternity leave. But what I have seen both through my own experience and through supporting families, who are executives or building businesses themselves, is that with this structure, with a strong structure, a holistic, proactive approach to this care, you can continue, to build your business, to build a life outside of this, and do so successfully. So that I think has surprised some people, and we've seen it. It's really supporting people in continuing on with building whatever it is that they're building, and doing so in a very positive way and coming out. For me, it was hard, no doubt, but I'm definitely stronger coming through postpartum this time than I ever was before.
Yeah. And so now Alma Care is in its fourth year?
Third, yeah.
Third year. So I guess what's next for you guys? What are some of the exciting things you guys are working on now? And where do you see, where's the trajectory of the business going?
Yeah, so right now we service all of Ontario. We've grown from what was quite Toronto-centric to GTA and right across the province. We've just entered into BC as
wow.
well.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And supporting families in that province. So we, want to continue to expand geographically throughout the country and likely others is the goal. And really it's about that impact. We feel it, we know it. As moms, it's intuitive. You know that, getting support can feel good and have an impact, but measuring it to try and change the minds of the people who can make an even bigger impact. So, measuring the impact of strong care on our family's mental health, going a little bit deeper there, really pushing hard for that early detection of mental health concerns in pregnancy, and then working with employers and benefits providers to make this far more accessible. Yeah. That's really a priority. Accessibility is a big part of this. Obviously understanding and knowing what to expect and being able to pull resources. But as I said, there's a lot of new Canadians who don't have families here. So they can't call
even
on
Canadians that are established.
Yeah.
Like families everywhere, or,
That's
like
right.
It's a great point. I mean, the population of women giving birth is getting older. And as a result, their parents and their support structure is older and at a different stage of life to be able to support them. So that's right. I mean, the infrastructure has changed here, and what that looks like. So the accessibility to professional care is a very important factor in this.
Yeah.
So working with those employers to recognize the impact it can have on the families and then in turn on their businesses is one that we're pretty passionate about as well.
I can imagine that there is such a clear benefit to employers, right?
Yeah.
To provide this kind of support.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, you've got these executive women or people building businesses to be able to, not just come back to work feeling strong, mentally strong, and having a structure in place for your family where everyone feels really connected and in sync. But in some cases, having, the employee come back to work sooner. We're seeing a different trend where women are taking longer periods of time off from the 12 months to 18 months. And with that strong support, maybe we're letting them, if they want to, come back, or encouraging them to come back, whenever they're ready. And that might be at 6 months.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe they'll be ready sooner because they were better supported earlier
exactly.
on. Yeah. This has been such an interesting conversation and an exciting one to see how the postpartum care experience is trending upwards and for the better.
Yeah. And I think that we love, hearing stories of women who have gone through experiences that were less than ideal. And now you're taking that and making it better for everyone that comes after. So,
Yeah. I kind of want to take the 30-day sit
right.
without a baby. Just
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd
Call
like
that
a period
mother's...
of confinement.
Yes,
sounds
exactly.
really nice.
Yeah.
Every January or so.
That's right.
Yes. Winter. Hibernate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate you being here today. And
Thanks for having me.
We will put all of your website and your Instagram handle in the show notes, but where can people find you online?
So we're Alma Postnatal on Instagram, and almacare.ca is our website.
Amazing. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks for having me.